I can't believe I'm making this video, but I got to go to the London Film Festival this year, my first ever film festival, and it was amazing. I went as Gnarly Marmalade Media, got a press pass, so I was in all the press and industry screenings, as well as some public ones as well, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. I saw 20 films, and a couple of talks and things, and yeah, I went out to London. Obviously, I'm staying in Brighton right now at uni. Went up to London, stayed there, went back home for a bit, stayed with my brother, and it was just an amazing experience. So, I mean, right now on my letterbox, you can find my scores and reviews, just short form, for everything I watched. There's a couple of reviews up on my website, a bit longer form. And then, I mean, this is where you're going to get your biggest helping of content for what to be watching right now. I mean, half of the films are out because I got this really late. Obviously, this is about a month or so after I was there. But I've got release dates attached to everything here. So yeah, I mean, enjoy. Let me know which films you're excited to see, if you've seen any. Obviously, some are out already. Yeah, let's kick it off. So the night before the film festival started, I actually went to a gig in Brighton right before I got the train up. So I saw a Regressive Left down at the Prince Albert, which was great. Proper like gnarly post-punk, kind of disco-y, really interesting stuff. Saw that, rushed straight out for the train, went up and stayed with my brother in Finsbury Park, which was lovely. Day one of the London Film Festival, I woke up at 7:15 to catch my first screening at 8:30 at the Odeon Lux on Leicester Square, which is a lovely cinema. It's got those big old reclining seats, big leather jobs. You press the buttons, the footrest comes out. Comfy. Bit too comfy for 7 in the morning when you're on not much sleep. I had one Red Bull, went in. Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical was the first thing I saw. This is out on the 25th of November, just next week, on Netflix actually. And I'm not usually a fan of musicals. I mean, it generally as a genre, it's not one that kind of generally appeals to me. But this I really liked. So I usually find them way too melodramatic and just a little bit cheesy. It's not my preferred musical genre either in terms of just the music itself. But I really like Matilda the Musical. I think it's really fun, very colourful. The soundtrack's not amazing, it's not mind-blowing, but it is good. Emma Thompson is one of the best casting choices of the year as Miss Trunchbull. She's petrifying. It doesn't really hold a candle to the original Danny DeVito one, but I mean, how could it? I grew up with that. It's classic. It's got so much character. It's oozing with goodness. This did not get to that level, but it was very well done. The production design's great. Stephen Graham as the dad is very good. Not quite as good as Danny DeVito, but Stephen Graham, you can't really go wrong when he's in a film, to be honest. And Matilda herself, bit annoying, but like you could get so much worse child acting these days that honestly not too bad at all. I think my main issue with the film was honestly in the ending. I think it happened way too quickly, like the final battle, and it sort of just like happened and then here we go, we're done. But it's not that big an issue. I think it's a really family friendly film. If you got kids, watch this. Great film to end the year with, to be honest. And honestly, Christmas is coming up, so it's that sort of film you can watch with anyone in the house. It's not very challenging at all. It's a fun film. Yeah, you can't really go wrong with this. I would give it a 3 stars out of 5. So my second film of the festival was The Eternal Daughter by Joanna Hogg, which comes out on the 2nd of December this year. And it was a way more challenging and filmy film than Matilda, unsurprisingly, because it's Joanna Hogg. And her last films were The Souvenir Part 1 and Souvenir Part 2, which are some of my favourite films of last year and of just general recent memory. And they're very meta films about filmmaking and the love of it, and then trauma around it in kind of toxic relationships and things. And they're beautiful. They're just stunning, stunning films. Some of the best stuff you can watch. I mean, just great filmmaker. Joanna Hogg kills it. She's an amazing director, and I can't wait for just her career to keep going. Please give us more. So this one is actually more of a ghost story, which is very interesting. Quite a bit of a pivot for her. Tilda Swinton stars in it, and she plays both the mother and the daughter of this family. And she kills it. Tilda Swinton is amazing, as per usual. She's one of the greats, all-time greats, really. And she's amazing. And yes, as the mother and the daughter, they go to visit this hotel that her mother was evacuated to during the World War. And kind of things start to happen. It's a bit spooky. It's not a horror film, I don't think. I mean, horror adjacent, given the ghosts, themes and things, and the imagery and the setting. But in terms of actual content, it doesn't necessarily tackle horror in the way that you're expecting it to be. It's a really beautiful setting. It's a really it's very similar to The Souvenir, and it's very naturalistic, lighting, very realistic place. Definitely been somewhere like it before if you live in the UK. This sort of stuff is just all through the countryside. Back where I live in my village, we've got maybe 3 or 4 places like this really close to us. So it's very relatable place for me, actually. I don't really want to give too much away about this film because I think it is best to go in blind. It's a very thought-provoking film, and it's also quite confusing. I'm going to need to see it again. I definitely did not pick up everything. But it is great. The filmmaking's beautiful here. The naturalistic lights are lovely. Loads of mirrors in this. I'm really struck by the use of mirrors. Probably the best dog acting I've ever seen. They have a dog in it, and the dog is amazing. Turns out it's actually Tilda Swinton's own dog in the film, so that's why it responds so well to her. But wow, it's just like the cutest dog ever, and it does exactly what it needs to do. It portrays emotion and things, which I've never really seen in an animal performance. It's kind of weird to talk about it like that, but yeah, amazing stuff. I think this is it's a lovely film. It's really hard to describe. I think just see it when it comes out, to be honest. I think I'd give it a 4 stars out of 5. So the last film I saw on my first day was CORSAGE, starring Vicky Krieps. So this is a period drama about the Austrian monarchy, and obviously stars Vicky Krieps, and she is amazing. Oh my god, if you don't know her name, learn her fucking name. Vicky Krieps. Oh my god. She speaks 3 languages in this, and obviously the title is Corsage. She wears the tightest corset you have ever seen in your life. It looks horrible, but that is fucking acting. She kills it. She does amazing. And I mean, this is just... I'm another genre that I'm not usually so into is period dramas, but wow, like Vicky Krieps' character is rebelling against the expectations put on her by society and by other kind of well-to-do people, either in the royal family or just sort of high up in society. And it's such a personal story. She's pushed in so many different places, and so it's all represented through eating disorders and her general actions and things towards other members of society, and it's really good. It's really, really good. It's premiering at a lot of festivals this year, so that this won the best film award at the festival. So when it comes out, see it. You're not going to be disappointed. Really star-making performance. I think she's going to go on to big things. I hope she's in a big old blockbuster or something with a load of money next, because she needs to be like displayed to the world as how good Vicky Krieps is. I'll give this one a 3.5 stars out of 5. So at the end of my first day of film festival, I had a gig booked. So I went to see a band called Horsey, which is one that I've been into for a bit with my good mate Nick. And they was down in Village Underground in Shoreditch, and they'd advertised a special guest on the bill, and we, as a support band, and we didn't know who it was going to be. We had some ideas, but I got there, and it was King Cruel himself. He's pretty much in my top 5 favourite artists of all time. Amazing. And we were right close, pretty small venue. It was beautiful to see him there. I mean, he's mates with the band, they're childhood mates, and it just made my week amazing. Like, getting to see him like that close up. And it was a load of unreleased stuff as well. The unreleased stuff is amazing. Very lovely stuff. Yeah, great day. Great, amazing start to my film festival. So day 2, I was up bright and early again. I think they were just having all the press and industry screenings in the morning and then having them premiere late in the evening on one day. So it's just what I had to deal with for the festival. My first film of the day was White Noise, which is coming out on the 2nd of December this year. And that's directed by Noah Baumbach and stars Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig. Amazing duo and amazing cast. Oh my god, they both killed it. All their kids in the film killed it. And this is a great film. I mean, the writing is just awesome. I hadn't actually heard of White Noise, the book, but I came out of this, bought a copy straight away. Haven't started reading it yet, but wow. I mean, I just hope people that are fans of the book were fans of this, because in my eyes, this seems to be like a very good adaptation of the book. And wow, yeah, the writing's amazing. The performances are amazing. It deals with a lot of family drama combined with the kind of environmental horror, which is very interesting combo here. And I think it does it mostly pretty well. I have one issue with the film, which is that the third act sort of loses sight of itself a bit. I think where it's going in the second act is amazing, and deals with a lot of like creeping dread and anxiety towards all sorts of things. But in the third act, it just loses sight of that a bit and doesn't... the conclusion is very strange, and I don't know whether it was a choice or if that's how it happens in the book. I've heard it was not how it happened in the book. A friend I made at the festival told me that the book ends slightly differently, but still roughly the same, but it just, comes across differently. So yeah, honestly, great film, very funny, as per, expected with Mr. Noah Baumbach. It ends with a dance scene to LCD Sound System, who made a song for the film, and it's one of my favourite dance scenes of the year, which is something I've actually started kind of noticing with things like Another Round, like movies that end with dance scenes, but this is a really, really good one. I'd give the film a good 4 stars out of 5 stars. It's coming out on Netflix, so be sure to watch it when it comes out. So I only watched 2 films on my second day, and the second film I saw was called The Origin, and this is a caveman horror film, and it is a genre I want to see more of. This was like a standard horror film in that it's a sort of plot you've seen before, but you've never seen it in this setting, and that's what really blew me away. Everyone in this film is speaking a made-up language, which is done very well. I have no idea how they managed to convey so much emotion while saying absolutely nothing. And I think the script readings for this film must have been insane. But yeah, really well done. The actors all did a very good job with the made-up language. And the setting's beautiful. It's filmed on the Scottish Highlands. And yeah, it's stunning. The cinematography is great. Yeah, you've seen the story before and it's somewhat predictable. But I do really believe that this is an interesting horror film. And yeah, for the horror fans out there, definitely check out The Origin. It doesn't have a UK release date yet, but I'm sure it'll be kind of early next year, I think. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So day 3, I didn't go to the morning screening. I was too tired and I couldn't bring myself to do it. So the first film I saw on day 3 was Bones and All, directed by Luca Guadagnino. So I actually nearly missed this one, because on paper it just sort of looks like a generic teenage coming-of-age story starring Timothée Chalamet. And I wasn't super intrigued by that. I think there was a clash. I can't remember what it was. But I saw someone talk about it online and they used the word cannibal. And I was just like, what? So I did a little bit of research, very small bit, and just saw it had to do with cannibals. And I was like, okay, I'm in for this. Turned up. And wow. Okay, first 15 minutes, just coming of age story. And it's good. It's good drama. And 15 minutes into this film, it clicks. It just goes mental, just fucking off the rails, and it's amazing. This is easily one of my favourite films I saw at the festival. Timothy's great. It's a bit of a star-making performance for Taylor Russell, who's amazing in this, and I just hope she goes on to do something else. We've got a Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross soundtrack, 9 Inch Nails legends. Just, oh my god, their score game's amazing, and equally amazing here, they don't miss again. It managed to balance the line perfectly between taking itself seriously with the kind of romance and coming of age story, and even the cannibalism to some degree, and then making jokes at itself. Because obviously you can't make a cannibal romance just deadpan serious, because it's not going to work. But there's cannibal jokes in this, and there's points where it's just so off the rails that it knows it's not serious. It's amazing how self-aware this film is of the genres it's tackling and the way it tackles them. The sound design in this is perfect for this sort of film. All the squelching and snapping and all sorts that you'd expect. It's a really beautifully shot film. The cinematography is great. The landscapes in it are stunning. It's kind of a road trip film in some ways as well. So as you can expect, everything's looking lovely. And for a film like this needs some exposition, because the cannibals in it are inherently cannibal. They're not wanting to be cannibal. So there needs to be some sort of explanation about what that is. And there's this narrated exposition that goes on through a majority of the film, and it's really helpful and done really tastefully, because a lot of that can be really cringy and over expositional, but it really walks the line very nicely of not telling you too much, leaving you wanting more, but it gives you all the information you need. This is a really, really well made film, and it is my favourite Luca Guadagnino. I wasn't a huge fan of Suspiria. I loved the original, didn't really love his adaptation of it, and Call Me By Your Name is okay, it's good, but it's not the best film of all time for me. This is special. This is really special. It comes out very soon on the 23rd of November, and you have to see it. If you're squeamish, maybe don't. It's pretty gory. But wow, Timothée Chalamet needs to do more shit like this, man. The inclusion of Lick It Up by Kiss in the soundtrack as well was fucking hilarious. And this is just Twilight for the 2020 kids, to be honest. Every 15-year-old is going to be obsessed with this, I'm telling you now. I'd give this a 4.5 stars out of 5, and it's not to be missed. It was one of my favourite films of the festival, for sure. So my second film of the day on this day was The Wonder with Florence Pugh. And I went to the premiere for it, which is actually my first ever premiere. I got to walk down the red carpet, And lining the red carpet, it's all these Florence Pugh fans with their DVDs of Little Women to get her to sign when she walks down later. And it was the surrealest thing I've ever done. It was magical. It was in the Royal Festival Hall on South Bank and had seats right in the middle, at the back, on the top. So some of the cast came out on stage to start with the director to do a little Q&A to introduce the film, which was great. Seeing Florence Pugh in the flesh, her dress was amazing. Yeah, and then the film started and off we went. But honestly, a little bit disappointing film. Obviously Florence Pugh kills it. She's one of the best on the scene. I mean, she's like the only good bit in Don't Worry Darling pretty much. Like, you know, she's really saving bad films. And I think if she wasn't in this film, maybe it wouldn't be for me either. It just was missing some heart, I think. The story tackles this girl who's not eating at all and is still alive, basically. And the local church thinks that it's a miracle and she's basically like a saint and, you know, God's interfering and doing something magical. And Florence Pugh's a doctor who's called over to this village and island to come and check it out and see what's happening and so observe her. I think my issues with the film are kind of in how profound the film thinks the setting is, which it is. I don't think it actually says that much about religion through the story. I mean, granted, this sort of small-scale, religion-based period drama is not my usual cup of tea, but this just didn't click with me, really. I think I didn't take much away from the film other than the things that people would do when they have a true faith in God. I felt very uninvested in the story and the characters, even if I was somewhat interested at points. And this is an attractive film, really good cinematography and good performances from Florence Pugh and Tom Burke especially, actually. There's one specific shot in this that just really blew me away, where Florence Pugh is lying on her bed and it transitions to the shot of the hills in Ireland and it fades them over each other, so it matches her body to where the hills go, and it's just a really beautiful transition and great editing. So this is a really well made film. I think my issues are more in the storyline itself. So if this is your sort of thing, like a period drama about religion, kind of small scale, then absolutely watch this. You will like it. It is on Netflix. It's just not my sort of thing, I think, and there's nothing much else to it. I'd give this a 3 stars out of 5 stars. So day 4, I didn't have that much on. All I wanted to see was AFTERSUN, which I will get to later, but I failed because the screening got full before I could get there. So I actually saw nothing on day 4. But yeah, I will talk about AFTERSUN later. So on day 5, I started my day with Living, which stars Bill Nighy and is an adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru. I haven't seen Ikiru, but I've heard this is a pretty faithful adaptation of it, just obviously set in London and with Bill Nighy instead. And it's a film about a man who's pretty glum, pretty depressing and intensely set in his ways. He becomes diagnosed with a disease that's going to kill him, and he realises he's not satisfied with life. So he goes on a journey trying to find what it is he wants out of life, and maybe even the meaning of life. And it's an interesting story. I'm sure Akira Kurosawa's original story was probably very interesting at the time, but this adaptation felt very boring to me. I was not into this film at all. I just found that nothing really happened that I was interested in. The dialogue felt awkward and it wasn't a particularly attractive film either, and I just failed to take that much away from it. I think the things it was saying about the meaning of life and what it is that we want out of life weren't particularly new to me or particularly eye-opening. Bill Nighy is good in this, as he is in most things, but yeah, I mean I will watch the original at some point because this has me intrigued for why the original is held up so much, but this adaptation didn't do it for me. So Living is actually out now in cinemas. It might even have finished its cinema run by the time this video comes out, but I do recommend you go and see it if you really like the original. I think you will like this, but it's just not for me. That's simple as. I'd give this a 2 stars out of 5 stars. So next up on day 5 was Women Talking, which absolutely blew me away. This was directed by Sarah Polley and stars a massive ensemble cast with people such as Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley, Ben Whishaw, Frances McDormand. I mean, wow. I don't cry at films very often, but this one got me, and it's just, I can't believe I haven't heard of Sarah Polley before. I think this is the best screenplay of the year. If it doesn't win the Oscar, I'm going to be very upset about it. It's written superbly. The monologues are amazing, especially Claire Foy's one. I don't know who has the best performance in this film, to be honest, because everyone kills it. It's a masterclass in thought-provoking, well-rounded dialogue. It perfectly ebbs and flows with the heavy subject matter, going between the more light-hearted stuff to some very, very horrible topics. Ben Whishaw did really well in playing a very difficult character to portray, given he's the only man in this film. So I have one issue with the film, and it's quite a big issue. It's the colour grade. It looks shit. It's horrible. It's really grey, and I don't understand why. I mean, I get it mirrors the depression and the sadness and the intensity of the subject matter, but what the fuck were they doing? Why does it need to look ugly? Your film does not need to look ugly to portray a message. I mean, it really significantly impacts the film. I think it's probably a masterpiece if it weren't for this. I don't know who signed off on that, but I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. And yeah, the half star is all just lost to the colour grade, which is never something I thought I'd say because it's just not usually an issue. But I haven't seen a film get it this wrong ever, really. This is out on the 10th of February, so it's a little while, but definitely see it when it's out. It's amazing. Okay, next up is a really special film. It's AFTERSUN. I actually got the last ticket for this at the third screening, which was the last, at London Film Festival. And so just about made it in. And it's directed by Charlotte Wells and stars Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio. And oh my god, this is one of my favourite films probably ever now. It hit so hard. The entire theatre was sobbing by the end. Wow, what a masterclass in filmmaking. And it's a debut feature. I don't really know what to say about this. I'm not going to talk about plot or anything because I think there's a lot of plot points that are better to go in blind and not to know. And I think there's a lot of things that are implied by the ending that you definitely should not know on your first watch. I'm desperate to see this again. I think it actually comes out on the day that this video goes live, so please pause this, go book yourself a ticket. It's special. It's beautiful, it's evocative, and it deals with memories so well. In the film, it's about Paul Mescal as a father and Frankie Corio as a daughter, and it's about kind of the memory of her father. So Frankie Corio's the younger version of herself when she's looking back, and she's looking at this footage that was taken from a family holiday on a camcorder that they'd taken on holiday with them. So some of it's shot within that camcorder, some of it's just kind of regular memories from her perspective, some of it's just general shots. And it is done so well. It's shot beautifully, the dialogue is perfect, and the breaks that it has to kind of show the feelings around the memories are excellent too. And no wonder this has so much buzz. It's just stunning. I think it sits in this place with films like Beau Travail and The Tree of Life that aren't really narrative driven at all, and instead want you to feel a certain thing and a vibe that's kind of built on through the film, and it's evocative through just the nature of the relationships rather than any kind of story and progression in relationships. Definitely see this, please. It's not going to be for everyone, but some people this is going to be a very important film to, and I really hope they get to see it. So obviously it's a 5 out of 5, no brain for me. I mean, yeah, one of my new favourites. I can't believe Charlotte Wells did this on her debut feature. I want to go and watch all her short films now, and I really hope she doesn't take too long on her next film. This was also produced by A24, unsurprisingly. Okay, just before I talk about this one, big old depression and suicide trigger warning. Skip ahead to the number below if you don't want to see that. So my first film for day 6, I saw The Son by Florian Zeller, whose last film was The Father. So obviously this is somewhat of a spiritual successor. It's not a sequel. I am going to rant about this a lot because I think it was the worst film I saw of this festival. Not in terms of filmmaking, but in content. This really pissed me off. It stars Laura Dern and Hugh Jackman in its lead roles as the father and mother of their son, who the film centres around. And the son is played by Zen McGrath. The best way I can word this film is depression porn, and I mean that in the worst way possible. I think it utilises depression and suicide to tell a story that appears heartfelt and like it cares, but actually there's no progression and there's no useful meaning from this. So it's utilising the mental health issues and disorders in order to sell a film almost, or just to make a dramatic plot. it does not go well. So it's told from the parents' perspective of their son, and their son is obviously experiencing these things. And let me just start with Zen McGrath is not good. The dialogue is stunted, the physicality is all wrong. There's something very not right about it. When he's crying, he looks more like he's laughing in a sort of Joker-esque way. And honestly, to be fair, maybe his performance wasn't helped because the script was wooden as it gets. So this film's from the perspective of the parents, and that is maybe its first mistake because it makes their pain almost more prominent than their son's, who's experiencing some really intense issues, but the issues that his parents are having are not understanding basically, and they think he's just being a dickhead and a hard to deal with son. So their issues and their pain that's the most prominent in the story is, oh, isn't our son so annoying and hard to live with? Their son is suicidal and heavily depressed, and it's obvious to the audience. It's not like it's something that becomes discovered and becomes unwound. It's clear from the get-go. So I was actually sort of on board with it. First half an hour, I was like, okay, Hugh Jackman's being portrayed as not the best dad. Laura Dern's a really caring mom, and their son is kind of going through some stuff. And, maybe it goes somewhere interesting. And it just proceeds to have their son get worse and worse. The parents not understand until it gets to Act 3. And so I'm going to do a spoilers bit for this because I can't talk about it without, and I don't care about the film enough to not spoil it for you because I don't think this is worth anyone's time. So towards the end of the film, the son attempts to commit suicide and ends up in rehab and kind of observational therapy. And you would have thought maybe this is the start of something new, like a progression for the parents where the son gets to go to real therapy and, become better, and it's about his development process. But no, it's not. What happens instead of the film being pro-therapy and showing the great work that psychiatrists can do is it descends into just insane. The son begs to be let out of this therapy, and obviously it's the parents' decision. And they're like, yeah, okay, I see nothing wrong. We'll let you out. You don't want to be here in the therapy. So they let him out. He comes back home. He's like, thanks, mum and dad. This is the best thing ever. Thank you so much for listening to me. They go and sit down to do something together. The parents are split up, so it's the first time they've been back together for ages. The son goes into the other room and kills himself instantly with his father's rifle within about half an hour of being home. My question is, what is the message here? What does the film want you to take away from that? The brutal reality of suicide, the brutal reality of young death. We didn't need this story. There's no progression for the parents at all. They see their son struggling for 2 hours straight of film and do nothing about it until he's put in therapy, and then they bring him out of therapy. So what's the message? This is the wrong thing to do. Obviously it's the wrong thing to do. They should be in therapy. There's nothing being said here. It's incredibly out of touch, pointless, a pointless portrayal of something that's so sad. It's just unnecessary. I have many personal issues with this film. It's just not on. I cried during this, but not for the reasons I should have been crying. It's just fucking ridiculous. I'm not someone who reviews films and shits on them much, but this is the sort of film that makes me very upset. I think Florian Zeller needs to get a bit of a grip and not. I just don't think it's appropriate to portray depression and suicide like this and use it like this in a plot. I think it's horrible. I don't want to say much else. Obviously it's going to take up half the video, but yeah, don't watch The Son. I mean, or maybe go and watch it and make your own opinion if you think it's good, whatever, but it's not for me. I didn't like it. Sad that Laura Dern was in this because I love her so much, but yeah, not a great one. Florian Zeller, come on, man. I give this 1 star out of 5. It is quite a pretty film, I guess. It's shot quite modernly. I think this is actually out in about a week's time on the 25th of November. So go check it out if you are interested. Especially because The Father was so great. As a follow-up, if you're interested in Florian Zeller's work, it's based on another one of his plays. So, check it out. So after that horrible morning watching The Son, I got to see Decision to Leave by Park Chan-wook, which was great. I think it's out now in cinemas, and this is going into the festival. This was one of my most anticipated films, and obviously because Park Chan-wook's associated, I mean, Oldboy and The Handmaiden, you've probably heard it all before, but they're great. Got them both up there on the shelf. They're some of my favourite films. So all I knew of this film before I saw it at the festival was this 20-second trailer that was getting played in cinemas promoting Mubi. And it was just the main character standing on the beach, looking around a bit dramatically, the waves looking beautiful, and it was stunning. Completely stunning, and I was like, I have to see this film. And it is another great movie from Mr. Park Chan-wook. I mean, what, he can't do anything wrong. It's a romance disguised as a detective police procedural film, and it does it very well. It's not a genre mashup I've really ever seen done in this way, because it does not really care about the detective side of the film. Like, it's obvious what's happened from the get-go. Maybe you don't know how it happened, but you know who, and you know sort of why. So it doesn't necessarily matter how. And it's actually more concerned with the relationship involved there. So actually the detective falls in love with the person who is involved in the killing of someone. So it's actually a really cute relationship, even though it's around a murder case. It's a very well shot film, very attractive, unsurprisingly. There's a few cool sequences where it uses pretty weird filmmaking techniques that I'm not going to talk about, because I think it's cool just to see it without seeing it in your head first, if that makes sense. Yeah, great film. Not loads to say. It's not going to be for everyone, I think. It's quite slow, and if you are going in expecting a detective thing, you're not going to get much out of it, because it's not like grounded in an interesting murder mystery. Not that it's not somewhat interesting, but it's not about the like whodunit process of anything. It's much more in relationship based. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and you should definitely check this one out if you're interested. So my last film of this day was called RIMINI, and it's the story of a singer who's kind of past his best, past his peak of fame, but always had a little bit of a popularity amongst older women. Think Michael Bublé, but way less successful. And now he's ended up in a sort of resort town where he just performs to old ladies, and he's also sort of a male prostitute, and sleeps with them afterwards and stuff. It's pretty weird and crazy. The performance of the singer is hilarious. The town's called Rimini. I think it dragged a bit. It would probably be a perfect 90-minute film, but instead it went on for about 2 hours. And there's a few scenes that are just unnecessarily grotesque and very out of nowhere, be it in just what they're talking about or what's actually going on. But overall, a pretty fun watch. I think it's worth checking out if you see it. I'd give it 3 stars out of 5. So 1 week into the fest, day 7, my first film of the day was The Whale by Darren Aronofsky, starring Brendan Fraser. Yes, this was one of my most anticipated films of the festival, and it did not disappoint in any way, shape or form. It was a suitably weird watch for Mr. Aronofsky, and all I knew of the film before was seeing that video of Brendan Fraser crying at Toronto Film Festival at the round of applause he got. It was a standing ovation for like 10 minutes or something crazy. And he deserves every bit of that. He was amazing in this. The costume design was amazing. How to make him obese like that. This is a very special film. Career best performance for Brendan Fraser there. His acting looked like he was really heavy, even though I imagine he probably wasn't, just because it's all costume. He did not put on that much weight for the role. Here's another one that I don't really want to say that much about, because it's really good to be blind going into it. It all takes place in one room, done very well, and makes you just as uncomfortable as some other Aronofsky's might. It's way less psychological than a lot of his other work, but it might be my favourite of his. It's a real tearjerker, and yeah, I think definitely watch this when it comes out. Comes out on the 3rd of February next year. I'd give it a 4 stars out of 5 stars. So after quite a heavy film, I got to see Bros, which is probably the funniest film I saw all festival. It's a rom-com starring and written by Billy Eichner, and it's so good. It's so good. Oh my god. It falls into a lot of classic rom-com tropes, but just done superbly. So funny. I think one of the only gripes I have is it's a little bit too long. It's a 2 hours rom-com, which isn't a bad thing, because the jokes are so good over that whole runtime. It doesn't really slow down. But I think when you're kind of going into that sort of traditional rom-com, you probably want to keep it more 90 minutes. I watched it with a great crowd. Everyone was laughing and cheering for the characters. It's one of the best cinema experiences I think I've ever had. Obviously, this does wonders for representation. Rom-coms are generally a very hetero-oriented genre, especially the blockbuster ones. I don't really have much else to say. If you want to laugh, look no further than Bros this year. I'd give it a 4 out of 5, and it is out now. So last film of this day was My Policeman, starring Harry Styles. It's out now. And yeah, Harry Styles needs to just not act or get some acting lessons before he does, because this following Don't Worry Darling just cements it in my mind that it's not the career for him. GCSE drama type acting at best, and it's just another queer trauma film, really. It being a film about queer trauma isn't inherently an issue, because obviously queer history needs to be told, and a lot of queer history stems around kind of traumatic incidents. With this film, it's a similar issue to what I had with The Sun, in that there's not much resolution or point to be made out of it. Like, the person who perpetrates the kind of really horrible stuff in the story doesn't see any punishment or like anything wrong, apart from a situation she just put up with sort of until her adult life. And it doesn't resolve that. Like, there's no one gets any comeuppance from anything. It shows someone doing something horrible and they never deal with the consequences of it. I don't really want to get into the shit show that's the stuff Harry Styles was saying in the press before this film came out, because Jesus Christ, is he out of touch. I've lost a lot of respect for him over it, because he's just made some really bad comments in the media, and you know, his performance wasn't good enough to back it up. It boils down to quite a like bland story about how bad police were in the 50s, and yeah, it's not really good enough to justify his existence. I think I'd give it a 2 stars out of 5. Okay, I'm excited to talk about this one. My day 8 started with Triangle of Sadness, which I've now seen twice because I took so long getting this video out. But if you can't tell by the fact I've seen it twice, it's great. It's out now, and it's probably the second funniest film I saw at the festival, just after Bros. And it's by Ruben Östlund, following up Force Majeure, and it won the Palme d'Or. So obviously going into this, I was excited. It's got to be good. Won the Palme d'Or, Ruben Östlund, and Woody Harrelson is in this too. It's surprisingly long for a comedy, clocking at 2.5 hours, but that's okay given the type of comedy this is. It's kind of split into 3 main acts and deals with different situations and settings in each. It's concerned with capitalism versus communism, and kind of people who intensely subscribe to one or the other and don't see the applications of each. Everyone's performances are amazing in this. Woody Harrelson does his best role in ages. I mean, Venom 2 was terrible and other recent stuff has not been great, but this is great. He's not in it for long, but very good performance. It's surprisingly unpretentious for its themes, and it doesn't patronise either. Easily one of my favourites from the festival, probably in top 5. Don't miss it. Check it out now in cinemas. I'd give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Also, the soundtrack is amazing. It's got New Noise by Refused in this completely nuts scene that you will hear about if you do any reading around this. It involves lots of throwing up. And then it also ends with Maria, We've Lost Dancing by Fred Again, which is another amazing song. So Ruben Östlund, good job on the picks. So on day 9, I saw Banshees of Inisherin, the new Martin McDonagh starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. And that's out now. It's been out for a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. It's a great film. I mean, Martin McDonagh classic. It's very funny, as per usual. More on the In Bruges side of things than like 3 Billboards. Very small scale story. Very kind of not inconsequential, but it's literally just between these few characters on this small island. Just about 2 homies and a pub. Went in pretty much blind, which I think is also how you should see it. If you like In Bruges and if you like 7 Psychopaths, you will like this. Absolutely. Just go and watch it. Honestly, like, I don't have much to say. Just check it out. 4 stars out of 5. On day 10, I got to see a talk by the wonderful Janelle Monáe. And yeah, she was just as cool in person as she is in films and on her music. She's in the new Knives Out, so she was kind of talking about a retrospective on her career, which is great. I saw her live a couple years ago. I think just before COVID, maybe. Yeah. Great, super charismatic, great interview. Can't go wrong. So on day 11, I saw Till, which is out on the 6th of January next year. And it's soul crushing. It's so sad. And yeah, it's about the lynching of Emmett Till in America in the 50s. It features a star-making performance from Danielle Deadwyler, which is a name everybody should learn right now, because oh my god, she's amazing in it as the mother. And yeah, it's a true story. It's horrible. it doesn't hold back on what it shows you. Yeah, a very, very hard one to watch. You will cry by the end of it, and you'll probably hate white people too. I'd give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the last film I saw of the fest, Day 12, Glass Onion, a Knives Out story by Rian Johnson, starring all sorts of people. It's really good. Surprise. I wasn't super crazy about the first one. I thought it was pretty good, like Agatha Christie-esque, like detective murder mystery. I think Daniel Craig was the standout of it as the detective, as well as Toni Collette and Ana de Armas. But yeah, I mean, take him and put him in a new setting with more rich people and more like crazy shit. It's perfect. It really is perfect. It's just as colourful as the first one, just as vibrant. And yeah, the mystery is interesting and gripping, and it has a really good ensemble cast, just as the first did. I think this is better than the first one, and not in loads of ways, but just in kind of production design, it's taken a step up. I think the ensemble has slightly more chemistry this time, and I think the climax is also very interesting. This is out next week on the 23rd of November, and you should just watch it. It's coming out on Netflix, like, very low stakes. Go and watch it. Watch it with your family. Probably a very good Christmas film if you haven't seen it by then. Yeah, that was the last film I saw at the festival. I'd give it a 4 stars out of 5. So yeah, that's everything I saw at London Film Festival. I had an amazing time, and I just can't recommend a lot of these films enough. Link below will be a list on Letterboxd of everything I saw at the festival ranked. And below I'll link to all the different Letterboxd entries for them, so you can go check them out for yourself. Lots of content coming down the line at the moment. I'm in talks for a few interviews at the moment. I've got a couple of interviews edited and ready to go. Upcoming next, like I said before, is probably just my end of year lists. But a lot of this is going to be coming up on my film list, so keep an eye out for that. As always, thank you for the support. It's been such an amazing launch to the channel, and I couldn't have wished for it to have gone better. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, whatever, blah blah blah. Yeah, Gnarly Marmalade over and out.